Hi there, I'm Ryan Bonazzo. Welcome to Northwest Newsweek. The Winneman Lake First Nation is pleading for help from senior levels of government after 3 tragedies in less than 2 days. A pair of youth deaths and the passing of an elder have shaken the community of just over 500 members. Winneman Lake leaders and representatives from Anishinaabe Nation say more support is needed as soon as possible. Corey Nordstrom has that story.
The people of Winneman Lake First Nation are still reeling after multiple tragedies struck their community last week. Over a 36-hour period, a youth fell from the top of the microwave tower. His death was witnessed by another youth who took his own life after seeing the incident. And an elder living off reserve passed away before his family could see him.
It's devastating because what happened on the fall from a microwave tower that's around 300 or more feet height, and he was at the top. And people saw him falling down. That's something we've never witnessed.
Winneman Lake leaders were joined by NAN officials as they pleaded to Ottawa and the province for support during this difficult time. Their requests include immediate mental health and intervention supports, additional policing and security to support the community, and to establish dedicated mechanisms with capacity building and resources to empower the community to respond to similar experiences in the future.
Just yesterday, we had a young, I wouldn't say man, it's a child, got medevaced out because of attempted suicide. And that's why we need our people to have security monitor the community homes.
A long-standing issue, there's no counseling available for the people or young people of our northern communities. Everyone knows one another. There's phone-in lines which don't do it.
We need professional support. We don't have psychiatrists or psychologists or whatever we need for mental health. We don't have those.
Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Anishinaabe police say the victim of a fatal ATV crash this past week on the Ganugaming First Nation is a 14-year-old girl from Long Lac. Her name isn't being released at the request of the family. APS responded to the incident around 2 o'clock on Monday afternoon. Police say the ATV, which was being driven by the girl, left the roadway and rolled over. She suffered a serious head injury and died en route to the Greenstone Hospital. Meanwhile, friends, family, and colleagues of the pilot who died in a plane crash at the Thunder Bay Airport earlier this month say he had a deep passion for aviation and always had a smile on his face. They're now mourning his tragic passing. Pete Belotis was just 30 years old. According to posts on social media, he graduated from the Air Cadets in Nova Scotia in 2008 as a squadron commander. Over the past few years, he worked for Bearskin Airlines and Meg Aerospace, living in Thunder Bay and flying all around Northern Ontario and beyond. On the evening of August 16th, Belotis was attempting to fly to Dryden in a Bird Dog airplane owned by Meg when he encountered problems just after takeoff and crashed onto the runway. Belotis was pronounced dead soon after. The Transportation Safety Board continues to investigate the cause of the fatal crash. Ontario's Special Investigations Unit has found no grounds to lay charges against 2 Atikokan OPP officers after a 37-year-old man died of a drug overdose while in custody last October. According to the SIU report, the man initially resisted arrest for breaching conditions of a release order. When police were able to subdue him, he admitted to consuming alcohol but denied using any drugs. Later that evening, the man fell from his bunk onto the floor of a cell. He was initially responsive but stopped breathing shortly thereafter. Paramedics were called and the man died in hospital. The SIU concluded that the officers did not commit a criminal offense in connection with the death. Tempers often flare during a political campaign, but one Thunder Bay Superior North candidate insists a group of opposition supporters in Greenstone recently took things too far. Liberal Patty Haidu says she was publicly harassed and intimidated by supporters of the People's Party of Canada. A lengthy video of the encounter has been circulating online. Some of her political opponents have condemned the behavior, but PPC candidate Rick Daines maintains the group didn't do anything wrong in this instance. Catalina Gillies has details.
This is not a livable Canada! Bring back Canada! Bring back Canada!
It's the third federal election campaign for Thunder Bay Superior North incumbent Patty Hajdu, but the Liberal candidate says she's never experienced anything like this before. During a recent visit to the Greenstone area, Hajdu says she was publicly harassed by a group of people upset about mask mandates and other pandemic restrictions. The group included some wearing People's Party of Canada t-shirts and even members of PPC candidate Rick Daines' political team.
It was meant to be intimidating. It was meant to drive me out of the town. In fact, many of them said, "You are not welcome here. You need to leave. We don't want you here." And it certainly doesn't reflect many of the conversations I had with other residents throughout those 2 days. I haven't seen that before in Thunder Bay Superior North, and it is for me alarming that a candidate would allow that behavior to continue.
PPC candidate Daines confirms that 2 people in the video are a part of his campaign team. And while he insists he doesn't condone harassment on the campaign trail, he doesn't believe the group crossed the line.
There are 2 sides to every story. Often there's more than 2 sides. And unfortunately, there's only one side that's being allowed to be spoken. I don't condone, confrontation or aggression in any way. If anyone perceives it as that way, then I would agree. I also don't condone a federal minister of health or a member of parliament, or even just a campaigning candidate to turn their back on people and say, "I'm not here to talk to you."
Other Thunder Bay Superior North candidates also shared their thoughts. The NDP's Chantel Bryson wrote this on Twitter. "The NDP and I do not tolerate any harassment from our supporters. No whisper campaigns, false news, or in-person harassment of those with opposing views." She also says Daines has a responsibility to put a stop to this kind of behavior. Green Party candidate Amanda Madajong says politics needs to stop being so divisive. Madajong adds candidates should not be focused on, quote, "this tomfoolery." Conservative hopeful Joshua Taylor chose not to comment, but wanted to clear up any misconception that the group is associated with his campaign. Hajdu says she will visit the area again before the campaign ends and that the mayor of Greenstone, Ronald Boyu, apologized for the incident. She's also calling on all candidates to ensure their teams fully commit to engaging with constituents in a safe and respectful way. Catalina Gillies, TVT News.
Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh visited the region this week, first with a whistle stop in Kenora, followed by a trip to Thunder Bay to deliver a campaign announcement on universal pharmacare. Our TVT News crews also spoke to Singh about a number of regional topics, including his plan for FedNor if he's elected Prime Minister. Corey Nordstrom has the story.
Jagmeet Singh made his second visit to Thunder Bay in the last month, announcing his pledge for universal pharmacare. The NDP leader also voiced his opinion on FedNor, where he believes the current Liberal government has taken the wrong approach.
The no strings attached approach hasn't worked. So if we make investments, they have to be tied to jobs. There is no point in FedNor making an investment in a sector or in an industry or in a company if there aren't ironclad guarantees that it's actually going to create a benefit for workers.
More work for the local Alstom plant could also be in the cards if Singh is elected Prime Minister.
When we're purchasing with our public dollars, so we're buying trains for Via Rail, Canadian Crown Corporation, we should be buying Canadian-made products.
Singh spoke with regional First Nations leaders while in the city as he looks to create plans that address some of their needs. They mentioned inadequate housing and the lack of clean drinking water as issues that further their feelings of hopelessness.
When we talk about the mental health crisis, we need investments in mental health. We need supports for Indigenous-led learning on the ground, on the land. There's a lot of on the land healing that can happen with good programs. But we also need to make sure that the quality of life in terms of housing and clean drinking water, when those are established, it really makes life better.
Singh also pledges to make access to clean drinking water a priority if his government takes power. Corey Nordstrom, TVT News.
Well, candidates are officially on the move, looking for support in the wake of that snap election call from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau earlier this month. As part of our election coverage, we've spoken with the candidates to get their take on the issues and what they believe will get them elected. This week, we're looking at the Kenora riding. Adam Riley has more on Conservative incumbent Eric Malillo.
It's been just shy of 2 years since Eric Malillo was elected to serve as the MP for Kenora, but he is once again pounding the pavement, speaking to the electorate and seeking their support. But unlike last time, he is not the challenger. He's the incumbent, with a track record he needs to either defend or bring attention to.
Whether it's the infrastructure investments we need, drinking water on reserve, or standing up for the small businesses in our region, it's been a pleasure to serve these past 2 years.
And what a 2 years it has been. 5 months after being elected, Malillo, along with the rest of the world, had to come to terms and adapt to living in a global pandemic, something that is still on the minds of voters as he campaigns in the riding.
Everyone's obviously focused on getting through these final stages of the pandemic and really focused on a recovery so that we can get people back to work, we can get our businesses going again, and really get the country back on track, because it's not just the health crisis that the pandemic has caused, but we're also now in a deep recession, one of the worst recessions we've had since the Depression.
Malillo believes his party and the platform it wants to deliver to Canadians will address the issues that face the Kenora riding, including broadband internet access, which he says the pandemic has proven is not a luxury, but a necessity. Promising if given a majority, all Canadian households will have access to high-speed internet by the end of their term. As well, he says there will be a focus put on rural Canada.
We will appoint a Minister of Rural Affairs, and we will ensure that there is a specific funding stream for infrastructure in rural areas, whether it's highways, bridges, you name it, across the region. We want to make sure that rural and northern Canada, including northwestern Ontario, has its fair share of funds.
Canadians go to the polls on September 20th. Adam Riley, Northwest Newsweek.
Malillo will have to fend off 4 challengers. Mitchell Ringos has more on David Bruno, who's looking to retake the riding for the Liberals.
We are the party that's been able to weather this hurricane of a pandemic. There's much more work to come.
That is only one of the messages Liberal candidate David Bruno has for the voters as he canvasses neighborhoods in the Kenora riding. A riding that until 2 years ago was held by the Liberals. And while some have expressed concerns over the decision by Justin Trudeau to call a snap election, Bruno says the Liberals have a track record of getting things done and believes it's what's needed to help steer Canada through the pandemic.
We need this mandate right now to clear the way to save ourselves from a possible 4th wave. And I believe that with our policies, we're going to weather our way through it. You know, for the last 2 years, what we've realized is that it's very hard to govern on a minority government, especially when you have the opposition parties with a knife to your throat, constantly wanting something for their base in exchange for what you're trying to do for the population.
And while Bruno may be a newcomer to the riding, he is no spring chicken in the political world, as he previously ran for the Northern Ontario Party in Thunder Bay Atikokan and challenged the Liberal nomination in Thunder Bay Rainy River, but was ultimately unsuccessful against Marcus Pulowski. He has also helped craft legislation for the Liberals using his expertise in cybersecurity to help compose Bill C-11, also known as the Digital Charter Implementation Act. When it comes to the issues, Bruno notes the twinning of the Trans-Canada Highway and broadband internet access are a big concern, along with others that hit home for him.
We've got to take care of our seniors. I have an elderly mother as well that I look after, my family as well, and these are the issues that most people have to deal with. Apart from that, climate change is ever present. I mean, again, I don't have to reiterate that our forests are on fire and we have to make radical change.
Mitchell Ringos, Northwest Newsweek.
When we come back, we'll continue our coverage of candidates running in the Kenora riding. Stay with us.